Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Michael Hunter has returned to the ring in winning ways, beating Shawn Laughery in Galveston, Texas on the Zurdo Ramirez undercard. So Hunter and Laughery co-main event, it ended in 4 rounds. And actually, I was a little surprised it went that long because Michael Hunter, he started strong. He had Laughery down in the first round. Right hand by the ear sort of shook Laughery up. Hunter sort of swarmed him, had him down on the canvas, and you sort of thought, okay, well, it might go 1 round. It is what it is. Hunter coming back after a year, blowing off the cobwebs. It's a tune-up. Everyone knew it was a tune-up, and he moves on to the next one. But there was an element of sort of playing with his food after that first knockdown, because round 2, everyone was sort of at range, not really doing too much. Hunter's jab was good at times. There was the odd right-hand landing. But there wasn't too much of note, and round 3 was even quieter. And I was starting to think, I'm not so impressed with the performance here, but Hunter did step it up in the 4th round in terms of the offensive end, and it was left hooks that closed the show. About a dozen of them or so. I'd have to go back and count them, but when I did watch the replay, the first replay, I thought it seemed like about 11 almost in a row. It was almost in succession. Michael Hunter just decimating Laughery. And it was all over. So the ref ends up waving it off. Laughery cannot answer the count. So, a win is a win is a win. But it wasn't one of these performances where I was left going, wow, Michael Hunter, watch out heavyweight division. There were moments, I sort of thought, he looks good. But then others I sort of thought, he is. And we have to bear in mind that often against some of the opponents that he's faced, Sergey Kuzmin, Martin Bakole, even Alexander Povetkin, he can look a little bit sloppy, reckless and wild, some swinging right hands, and he, if he misses, he can be a bit off balance. That's just sort of his sort of style, high octane, high risk. He's always going to be in a fun fight. And in Laughery, you had a guy who, was 3 or 4 inches shorter than Hunter. The reach would have been something similar. Standing at range, being defensive, not really doing too much. So the style matchup possibly didn't really sort of do much for Hunter in this one to make him look better than he is. He didn't have someone who was coming forward trying to take his head off. Laughery sort of seemed to be a bit hesitant of what Hunter had, and for good reason, because every time he ate a clean shot, it hurt him. And ultimately, he ended up getting stopped in that 4th round. But it wasn't like sort of anyone in the heavyweight division who's a top opponent would have been thinking, wow, Hunter, he's back. A year out of the ring, he looked fantastic. It wasn't quite that sort of performance. He looked a bit rusty, so he blows the cobwebs webs off here and on to the next one, advances to 19-1-1. In the post-fight interview, though, he sort of talked about, it was about establishing his jab, see where it would take him, and ultimately he knew he would get the stoppage at some point. And that happened, but it wasn't exactly a sort of breakdown that you sort of thought, wow, I didn't see that coming, because Laughery brought in at 10 days notice. It was what it was, but he did call out Dillian Whyte, said he wants to face Dillian Whyte, said, look, you call yourself the boogeyman, I'm the boogeyman, and, basically anybody can get it, and he wants that Whyte fight, but open to other offers as well. And actually, I don't know if a Dillian Whyte fight is really that realistic. Considering, 1, he was dropped by Matchroom this year, he's no longer in the stable, that would have helped, but 2, Michael Hunter doesn't have anything that Dillian Whyte wants. That's the problem. Seemingly compared to, say, comparative opponents, guys who were sort of in the top 10 or top 15, Michael Hunter has one of the smaller fan bases, smaller profiles compared to some other fighters out there. He doesn't have a belt that Dillian Whyte can go after, and probably out of other options, it would be a lower revenue sort of pay-per-view event if you were to make that fight and have it in the UK. Wouldn't draw as much as other potential fights that are out there. And at the moment, Dillian Whyte has got a rematch that's apparently going to be happening with Alexander Povetkin potentially in March, and that would be for the WBC mandatory position. So Povetkin's got something that Whyte wants. Hunter does not. And this is part of an issue here for Michael Hunter. What happens next? And I'm going to sort of traverse that in another video at a later date. So this is a post-fight review, just sort of get into a couple of issues, but I don't see a Whyte fight being likely. And what next? I think he would need to sort of, join on with a bigger promoter. I think if he's a free agent and he's got certain expectations of certain money, given where he is based, he's rated relatively high in all 4 sanctioning bodies. The Ring magazine has him as the 8th best heavyweight. There's maybe going to have to be a little bit of a shift in his position if he wants to get some of the bigger fights that the bigger fighters are under promotional banners. So I think, we'll have to see what happens with Hunter next, but probably not a Whyte fight. Hopefully something better than this one. Because, look, it's COVID times, a pandemic, etc. You can go, okay, you're entitled after a year out of the ring to a tune-up. But let's hope it's not the same again next time, because I wouldn't be co-signing that at all. What did you make of this fight? Shawn Laughery, as the commentators kept saying, he's tough, he's game. Ultimately couldn't handle the power of Michael Hunter, stopped in 4 rounds. Hunter, another win. After a year out, he's back. What did you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.